It is July 19th, and we are back live. This is the Based Mother Show. I'm Elena Barbera tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about massive Secret Service failures on July 13th with the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And then we're starting this week with something very special. I am going to be digging into each point of Agenda 47 and having a conversation about what it is that Donald Trump is actually trying to accomplish in an effort to get the truth out there. We're going to get right to it.
Have you heard of the Based Mother?
So guys, we have had a lot of questions since July 13th, the thank God failed assassination attempt of Donald Trump happened. And I don't know about you guys, but every day there's new information coming out. What's real, what's not, what's, what's coming from a valid source, what's just coming from some stranger on the street. It's really hard to sift through the noise. Senator Josh Hawley, though, today released a letter that he wrote to the Director of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. And in it, we found some really disturbing things. Hawley went to Butler, Pennsylvania, and started asking all the people who were actually there because we weren't getting good information from the government. And what he found is beyond disturbing. Listen to this. I'm not going to read you the whole letter. I'm going to read you some of it, though. I write to raise, dear Secretary Mayorkas, I write to raise concerns brought to me by whistleblowers about your department's stunning failure to protect former President Trump on July 13th, 2024. As Secretary of Homeland Security, you are ultimately responsible for your agency and its components, including the U.S. Secret Service. Whistleblowers who have direct knowledge of the event have approached my office. According to the allegations, the July 13th rally was considered to be a loose security event. For example, detection canines were not used to monitor entry and detect threats in the usual manner. Okay, I saw Trump speak back in February at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel during the NRB conference, and we all got sniffed by dogs. Even there were dogs. And that was an enclosed, much more secure area. This is crazy. Individuals without proper designations were able to gain access to backstage areas. I used to work in the concert business. I worked hundreds of concerts. When I tell you that the Backstreet Boys were so well protected, nobody was getting in. Al-Qaeda wasn't getting in there. And yet you can get in backstage at a Trump event? Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is embarrassing. Not embarrassing, highly suspicious and embarrassing. Embarrassing also. Okay, let's see. Department personnel did not appropriately police the security buffer around the podium and were also not stationed at regular intervals around the event's security perimeter. Okay, even at like lame-o concert, not lame audience. No, I'm not being nice. Let's say the Irish tenors, okay? The three tenors. They're attracting this like super nerdy, quiet, white bread audience that never ever has any sort of a problem. It's like going to the opera or the ballet. You're not having fights there. We had security through the whole perimeter of those events, but no, when the most controversial men on earth, you don't have security all around the place. Are you kidding me? Just a little more. In addition, whistleblower allegations suggest the majority of Department of Homeland Security officials were not, in fact, U.S. Secret Service agents, but instead drawn from the department's Homeland Security investigations. This is especially concerning, given that HSI agents were unfamiliar with standard protocols typically used at these types of events, according to the allegations. I mean, we are talking about, like, going to, you got a fine dining restaurant and everybody's out sick. So you bring in the fry cook from McDonald's and hope it goes okay. That is exactly what they did for Donald Trump. absolutely outrageous, unacceptable. And I want to applaud Josh Hawley. Let's look at his face. I got him right here. See, there he is. Applaud him because he is launching this investigation and going deeper and asking questions. Because when they had the Senate hearing, most of the senators didn't even get to ask a question before they ended it. Wonder why. Now we know why. They got a lot to hide. Whew. Okay. All right. Speaking of things that are hiding and lies, we're hearing constantly, day after day, about this Project 2025. Biden's talking about it. Kamala's talking about it. Celebrities are talking about it. And they've got all the half-wits who refuse to do any research on their own concerns that this 2025 is going to get everybody, all of us in Warsaw ghettos, as soon as Trump takes office. Well, Project 2025, as you probably know, if you're watching this, is a project of the Heritage Foundation. And it's a platform that they've presented for, as a possibility for the Republican Party. But Donald Trump has his own platform. It's called Agenda 47. It is on all of his websites. And week by week, I'm going to be bringing on guests and to talk about and dissect Agenda 47, each aspect of it. Tonight, we're getting into law and order. And Donald Trump in his efforts to restore law and order in this country, because we have completely gone off the rails. People don't feel safe in their homes. They don't feel safe on the streets. They don't feel safe traveling, even doing everyday things like shopping or going for a walk. I have never in my entire life heard so many people say they are concerned for their personal safety. That's really troubling. So we got to get to it. I'm going to bring in Seth Eisenberg, my special guest tonight. He's the host of the Conservative Corner podcast. Here he comes. Hey. Hello, Seth.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Just hot, sticky, wet, miserable, but okay.
Oh, okay. I have air conditioning and I'm fine.
I do too, but it's just oppressive humidity. You go outside, you get like instant swamp butt. It's horrible.
I'm very sorry about that. Some of us react differently. It has to be like 150 degrees for me to be upset about it. Wow, you ready to talk about law and order?
Always.
And rampant crime in America?
Let's do it. I live near Baltimore, so I know all about that.
Wow. Okay, you must just hear the alarm bells going off all day and night over there.
It's the world's largest outdoor shooting range. So.
Oh my God. No, seriously, like the air of Chicago, like this is crazy what we're hearing. Every weekend. Chicago is probably the one that most people know about. Every weekend you're hearing about dozens of people shot, at least a dozen people killed. It's just, here we go. It's the killing season every weekend in Chicago, even in the winter. Usually murder season is higher in the summer because people are out. They're out and about, and the cold keeps some of them in. But Chicago, even in the cold, they're shooting each other. They must be really bored.
Hey, I'm bored. Let's go kill someone.
Yeah, let's go get some vengeance on some stuff that happened 20 years ago. All right, so let's just jump right in. Okay. Let's get to the point. People need to know about the truth about Trump's platform so that they can go out and share the knowledge and help to shoot down these ridiculous lies from the left. So let's talk about, I'm going to show a little clip of Trump talking about the first part of his law and order platform, police reform. Here we go.
Here's my plan to restore law and order in our cities and throughout our country, frankly. First, because police forces have been gutted by Democrats' war on police, I will sign a record investment in hiring, retention, and training for police officers nationwide. So important. This bill will also increase vital liability protections for officers because the Democrats want to take those protections away from our police because we want them to do their jobs, and we want them to do their jobs right. You can't take their protections away if you're going to have them do their jobs properly.
All right. So first part of that was investing in more police, in hiring, training, and retaining police, because as we know, fewer people are signing up to become police,
Yep.
and they're quitting and retiring early. And we do have training problems. I don't think anybody really it's in dispute that we can't always use better training in our police, especially that the fabric of our country is just keeps changing and keeps getting crazier. Like how could an old school police training even fit in today?
I think it could. My father's a retired police officer. He did 20 years in PG County, which used to be the Wild Wild West. It was back when he was a police officer. PG County SWAT team was the most active SWAT team in the nation. They were constantly doing stuff. When he became a cop, there's a height to weight ratio requirement, a bench press requirement, a mile requirement, some other physical requirements. And if you couldn't pass those, you weren't hired. There was no waiver. There was no, okay, let's try it. You just were.
Hey, sorry guys, I didn't mean to barge in, but we can't hear Seth.
Oh.
You sound like you're underwater.
What about now?
Check your mic. Yeah, everybody's saying it in the chat, but you weren't responding and you weren't hearing it, so we can't hear Seth. Sorry.
No. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but apparently nobody else can.
Try this. I don't know. It's plugged in.
Check your settings.
Let's see what we got here. The new microphones. I probably did screw something up. It's possible.
All right, guys. So we're going to keep going with this one while Seth checks that out. So I want you to hear what he was just saying, and we're going to get right back to that. But in the meantime,
everything's supposed to be going good.
Eddie, nope. Eddie's still shaking his head backstage there. He's saying nope. All right, you want to pop out and pop back in? Eddie, get in here. Hello.
That was quick.
So
I was
now
sitting
we
there
have
listening. I planned on just sitting here, watching. But when I heard him and I saw the chat lighting up, I said, I better jump in here because you obviously don't know. And I figured something was going on where you could hear him and nobody else could.
Well, I thank you very, very much. So let's see. He's going to come back in and we'll let him back in a second. But were you listening to the conversation about, so in your experience or what you're hearing or in your town, like what's going on around the police? I mean, how could they benefit from Trump coming in and really, infusing new life into police departments across America?
Well, we know that municipalities across the entirety of the United States have all taken hits due to the rhetoric and the agenda of the left after the summer of love. And we saw a lot of police officers following that whole situation, assaulted, dead. I mean, some of them were ambushed. Yeah. It's really sad to see the police demonized when in fact there are frontline soldiers, right? I don't understand the same people that would, salute a soldier would, flip a cop the bird. It makes no sense at all. To me, they're one and the same. Yeah, I think they would benefit very easily from just a change of the culture, right? We need to, that's what Project 2025 is. If anybody really wants to know, it's a return to our national identity, to put us back to loving our country, saluting our flag, putting our hand over our hearts, loving our communities and everything. Everybody and everything is not against you. Everybody and everything is not racist. Everybody and everything is not homophobic. The left has taken everything so far, pushed it to such the fringes that, I mean, it's so bad that people don't even want to put Trump signs in their yard.
Well, I think that's changed now. I think that's changed now.
Well, now I think that people are not giving it a damn and they're doing it regardless. But the danger is still there. They're just saying, I don't care anymore.
Did I fix it?
Yes, there you go.
Well, I could hear him in the room. I don't know if you can hear him from out of the room. So, guys, in the chat, let us know, please, if you can hear Seth now. It is we're doing our best here at Patriots Prayer
There
Network.
it is. What he says, he can hear you.
We can hear it. Good. Okay. I don't know what it was. Maybe I just needed to come back in. Well,
all right.
I'm sorry. So I apologize, everybody. And
all right. So let's stay on track with Agenda 47, and we're talking about the police. And I do want everyone to hear what you were saying. We were talking about training and retaining, new police, and that Trump wants to infuse a lot into local police departments. What were you saying there?
And I think you're talking about old school policing. And I was saying my father's a retired police officer, did 20 years in PG County. When he first got on the force, there was a height to weight requirement, a bench press requirement, a mile requirement, and some other physical things they had to do. And if you couldn't pass them, you weren't hired. There was no come back in 6 months or let's try it again tomorrow. You were not eligible. My father said as he was in the department longer, he noticed those things were waived. Oh, okay, if you can't do the mile in this time, let's cut it down a little bit for you. If you can't do the bench, we can do this for you. He said it got to the point where the requirements were, if you can make it, great. If not, we'll get you in there. And I think that's when the police department started to deteriorate. When there was a bar to begin with, and that bar got lower, so it was easier and easier to fill the positions with people who probably shouldn't have become police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And my father to this day will tell you there are men behind the badge and women that should not be there. And he doesn't blame them. He blames the departments. They've made it easier for people to get into it. So I think the first thing, and I agree with Trump, I think the first thing we need to do, though, is set requirements and then stick to them. If you can't do this, don't care. You're not going to be a cop. Whine and cry, say you're going to sue me, file a lawsuit, do what you got to do, but you're not going to have a gun and you're not going to have a badge because you can't even meet the bare requirements.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we start. We make a good foundation and then build up from there.
Well, once we do that, the second part of this really fits in nicely is, what he wants to do is bolster qualified immunity, which makes it illegal to sue a cop just for doing his job. And, for
in
years
the line
now,
of duty. In the
line of duty,
yes.
right, doing his job, right, yeah. So but over the past few years, we've had, for example, squad members and a lot of the lefties literally trying to make qualified immunity illegal. They've been trying to do it on the city level, on the federal level, and trying to take away those protections. Yeah. And that alone is helping to feed the crime waves, because cops are going, I don't want to deal with this. Why am I going to do my job if I'm just going to be prosecuted or sued?
Right. You're exactly right.
The problem is even myself, nobody wants to be told no. No, you can't do that. No, don't go over there. No, stop, talk, go. Mm-hmm. So that's what a police officer's job is, to tell you no. Mm-hmm. They're not there to adjudicate. They're not there to judge you. They're there to enforce the law enforcement. So when people get told no, they get upset. They get angry. You can't tell me no. Then they get belligerent and get physical, and then cops have to touch people.
And then they start telling you why you said no.
Exactly.
And that's where the danger comes in, because you told me no because I'm black. You told me no because I'm white. You told me no because I'm Asian, Chinese, Mexican, whatever the hell it is. The left loves to convict people of thought crimes.
And
absolutely,
that leads into the immunity, because they have to grab you. They are legally allowed to put hands on you, and they're protected to do that as long as it's reasonable and it's in the line of duty, like you were saying, Eddie. Mm-hmm. So you take that away from them, that means they're no better than you or me. If something happens and they grab somebody, I'm going to sue you.
Yeah, they're getting up every morning to go out and protect your family and put their lives at risk. And everything they do, they can be sued. You know how less safe we are as a result of policies like that. And people on the other side of this are emboldened to commit more crimes, because when accompanied along with that are DAs that now don't want to prosecute. Tons of Soros-backed DAs just not doing their job. The one in Georgia literally didn't do her job, got elected, and then just stayed home for like months. I mean, when I say didn't do her job, I mean, didn't even show up to work, like, period, and lost her job. I mean, imagine that.
They actually fired her for it, though. They
fired her for it because it became too much. It's like, okay, you should at least pretend a little bit, show up,
can you
do some stuff, let some murderers go, put some, do something.
That's awesome, because there is a part of this we're going to get to that talks about things like this, about going after these ridiculous prosecutors who just let everything go. Literally at home doing like eating bonbons, getting paid by the citizens while criminals run free. This is what you're telling me. See, I didn't hear about this particular prosecutor.
There's a few.
There's so much information. There's so much information to keep up with. Well, I know there are a lot who let crime go, but let's just look at his next point, because I really love this topic.
Second, to qualify for this new funding and all other Justice Department grants, I will insist that local jurisdictions return to proven common sense policing measures, such as stop and frisk. Very simple. You stop them and you frisk them. Strictly enforcing existing gun laws against convicted felons, cracking down on the open use of illegal drugs, and cooperating with ICE to get criminal aliens off our streets and get them out of our country.
All right, guys, I'm going to completely disagree with this one. I love Donald Trump to death. I mean, I've traveled the country following the guy, and most of this is in complete endorsement of Donald Trump. But I do not agree with stop and frisk.
Yeah.
Stop and frisk is the most unconstitutional thing you can possibly do. I mean, it's damn near Gestapo, right? I understand why he's saying it and the sentiment behind it, but this is how we can go too far, though. Like,
but it worked. But it worked.
It does work, but I can put you in a prison cell too, and you're safe in a bubble. But freedom is free. That's the whole point. These guys, in order for you to stop me, check me, pull me up, you can't say, "Where's your papers?" You know, you have to I have to have committed a crime. I have to be under suspicion of a crime. You just can't.
That's usually what stop and frisk is. It's about
stop and frisk supersedes that, though.
But it's
stop
about
and frisk just says
about superstition. I mean, not superstition. Suspicion of behavior. It's not
it's more than that, though.
Everybody. I understand the right to do it, but it really is about suspicious behavior.
The Fourth Amendment is very clear. You know, we are to be secure in our papers and effects. And unless you see me commit a crime, or I'm in the process of committing a crime, or someone called in and said I did something, you just can't pull me up. even as a felon or anything else, if somebody was walking down the street with a firearm on their hip, that provably is not enough for any police to stop you and say, "Hey, what's your name? Where are you going? Why you got that gun?" It's none of their business.
Can they ask for your
nope.
for your license, your papers to have?
Not at all. Not at all. They're not allowed it. Not unless you commit a crime.
I'm all for aggressive policing. I think it does work. I think it's proven it works, but there's got to be a line.
Yeah, there has to be a line.
People walk up to anybody in the street, go, "Hey, look, I'm a police officer against the wall. I want to see your ID."
Exactly.
You've got to have a reason. Because that's a slippery slope. Once you start doing that, then it's like, "Hey, I'm going to go in this guy's house. I want to check to see what he's got in there."
Exactly.
Or I'm going to go through his car.
Exactly.
I don't think most police officers would abuse that. I really don't. But all it takes is one to go into somebody's house without a warrant and do what they want to do.
I do say that because of the rampant crime and the illegal immigration, and we have 30 million plus people here, and we don't know who they are. Really, we don't. I do think that I agree with him suspending the Constitution for a period of time, a determinate period of time.
How could you wait a minute? How could you even say stop and frisk? No, and then say
because that's a permanent problem.
And then at the same time, in the same phrase, say suspend the Constitution.
We've done it before, and it works. That's why the martial law clause is there. It is for a determinate amount of time. So I can say I have 2 or 3 months in which to go into a city or a place and clean it up. And I would suspend posse comitatus too, because your military is going to have to be used. You have 30 million people. That is not going to be a National Guard operation. You're going to have to go city by city and really round people up.
Let's stay on Agenda 47 if we can. I'm going to ask again, please. We're talking, what he is saying here is he's talking about removing federal funding from cities that don't, and police departments that don't cooperate with ICE. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's when we're talking about immigration.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you feel about that?
I agree 100%. A crime's a crime. You're here illegally. Yep. You need to go. It's really that simple. There's millions of people who did that, who followed the rules and became citizens. It's a slap in their face to let people just come in as they want to and not have to follow the rules. So I'm all for ICE enforcing laws. I'm all for jurisdictions losing funding if they don't cooperate with ICE. I'm all for jurisdictions losing money if they release somebody who has a detainer from ICE on them. I'm all for that. If you can't follow that law, you shouldn't be a police department. It's
Agreed.
that simple. That's
Yeah,
a
but,
law.
we've got these sanctuary cities who are just saying up yours. Like,
Take the money from them.
how is this even possible? That, I mean, I don't understand the laws enough. Maybe you guys do, between the feds and the states and the cities. Like, how is it that they are able to just completely disregard
not.
federal
They're
law
not- yeah,
and
they're not.
nobody's doing anything about it?
Here's the saying, right? Perception is power, right?
Yeah.
So if you believe I have the power to do that, then I do. It's like the cop that pulls you over, you know, and where are you coming from? Where are you going? The real answer is none of your damn business. But if you believe he has the right to inquire about where you're coming from and where you're going, then you're going to tell him, because power perceived is power achieved. These people that use these terms like sanctuary city and all this, like it's legal. It's not legal. It's never been legal. The federal statute is broken. You're a criminal, and it's just that the states are refusing to enforce the law. That's what it really is. It's not that there's not a law. They're refusing to enforce it.
You can have state law that's more severe and more strict than federal law, but you can't have a state law that's less restrictive or less enforceable than federal law.
Or contradictory.
And enforce it over federal law. You cannot do that. So state laws can be more. They just can't be less. And they're less. So like he's saying, that's not legal. They cannot do that. But
Yeah, well, they're doing it. They're doing it. They're doing it for
look
years
who we
now.
have look who's in the White House. The guy
Oatmeal brains.
Bowels. He's not.
They started these sanctuary city things while Trump was still in office, though. You know, like living in Boston, and you know, you had remember? Did you guys ever see that hideous Marty Walsh video? He was the mayor of Boston, and they did this goofy ass video where he was there, you know, walking around City Hall with people laying on the ground, and he's like, "Hello, we're gonna get you a coffee, you can sleep in my office if you need to." I mean, it was atrocious, and yet they have recently. Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts, this week dropped off illegal immigrants at train and bus stations, at the subway, because she's out of space. No one's sleeping in City Hall. No one's sleeping in the governor's office. They're dropping them in subways like rats. This is how Democrats treat people. It's absolutely atrocious. But one more point that he had, that he said he would withhold federal funding from departments who don't crack down on open use of illegal drugs. How do we handle that? Because when you look at the millions of homeless people that we have that we never used to have, these are drug dens. There is nowhere to put them in prisons either. How are we going to crack down on this? What's even possible?
I think with drug addicts, and don't get me wrong, I don't think drug addiction starts out as a disease. It starts out as a choice. You make a choice to shoot, snort, or whatever. I don't think prison would work. I think you got to rehabilitate them, or they're just going to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And
right, but where are we putting them? We don't have the space. We don't have the facilities for
That's
this.
a great question. I mean, hospitals, you can't do that. Not enough hospitals. Private rehabs, we can't afford to pay for that.
I mean, maybe if we clear out the illegal shelters and ship all them back, we can put them all back and put them all in there now that they're in play. We got systems in place there. I mean, honestly, I'm not being facetious.
It's a tough one, because you can't jail an addict over an addiction, because that doesn't cure the addiction.
It doesn't cure the addiction, but I'm a kid who grew up in a house with heroin addicts, right? I left home at 14. Right? I lived this life. So I have a perspective. I think that is a little different maybe than the two of you. My mom and dad were both on methadone and going to those clinics consistently every day. And I'm surrounded by people pushing their baby strollers into the neighborhood to buy drugs with their welfare money. I've seen it all. And the thing is, you got to weigh everything that we do against what's free and legal, right? So you have to stop the drugs from coming in, first of all. I guess that's where you start, right? You stop the drugs from coming in. You create opportunity for people in the inner city instead of, just allowing the impoverished communities to stay the way that they are. And, we send money, trillions of dollars overseas, but Baltimore City looks like trash. Certain parts of New York look like trash.
Yeah, it does.
And across the whole United States, there are many other places that we could name that are just in terrible conditions. The reason that they are like the way they are is because the drug dealers and the people that live in those communities that sell those drugs, that push that death on people, they do that because there is a lack of opportunity in those areas. And I can tell you for certain, Baltimore only has 8% of the people that live there actually pay taxes there. 92% of them are on entitlement programs or some other way of supporting themselves, but they're not working. And there's hardly any real industry there. We shipped all of our paper mills, steel mills, everything else
All right, but
somewhere else.
That's a generation of change that needs to happen. But
That's what drives this, though. When a community is impoverished, they survive.
Okay,
look at West Virginia when the mining disappeared.
When I'm shot, I'm not worried. In that moment, I need to stop the bleeding, not worry about let's get the guns out of the neighborhood. Like we're talking about the bleeding, and he's saying like we have people, we now part of another aspect of that problem is that we have prosecutors in cities like places like Oregon where they just completely legalized all kinds of drugs. They legalized everything, so. Now we have open use of drugs. How do we deal with the problem? I mean, yeah, we can talk about the cause, and we could go through 100 years of how we got here. That doesn't matter. We're bleeding right now.
Unless we change that, we're not getting away from here.
Well, you're missing.
Then you criminalize the drug use. But
how do we crack down at, which is Trump's words, on open use of illegal drugs?
Start putting drug dealers into jail for life or execute them. Make the crime, make the punishment beyond. Yeah, you can't handle it. I can't. I'm not doing drugs because they're going to execute me.
Didn't they do that with certain drugs for every hit or whatever they had? It was like a murder charge. I forget which one it was.
Oh, I know you're talking. I can't remember. Yeah, I know you're talking.
Every single hit of the drug is a murder. If they did that with heroin, if they did that with, Schedule II narcotics, then all of a sudden possession of the narcotic is not just a ticketed offense where you show up but it's a serious offense. It's just the same way we cracked down on sex workers across Nevada when we said essentially a pimp is not just going to get charged for whatever. It's going to be human trafficking. And now all of a sudden he's spending the rest of his life in prison and it's not worth it.
I think it's what.
Does it work? Did it work?
It does work.
It does work. That's cool.
I mean, the Philippines and I think Thailand, if you
have execute them,
you're executed. You go.
Yeah, they kill them.
Yeah, so we're jumping ahead.
Maduro,
because he does.
Maduro did that.
Yeah, we're jumping ahead here because he does talk about death penalty for drug dealers, and I want to know. I haven't heard him. I haven't. I'm not saying he hasn't expanded on it. I haven't found it yet.
Right.
What does he mean by that? Does that mean if somebody dies because you sold them something, you get the death penalty? Because I honestly, personally, I think that's where it ought to be. I don't necessarily think that possession and sale of something should automatically be a death penalty. Like that to me is a bit insane.
It should be over a certain amount. If you have over a certain weight of heroin, regardless of
death penalty.
Yes, because you're going to kill somebody. If you've sold drugs for a year or more, you've killed people.
Somebody's died.
Yeah, you've killed people.
So if I have illegal ammunition that hasn't been shot yet, I should get the death penalty because that's
the drugs have been shot.
No,
the drugs have been shot.
We're talking about possession and intent to sell or selling drugs. And I'm saying the same thing with the bullets kill as much as heroin or fentanyl. If I'm selling illegal ammunition, it is the same thing. And I don't think that warrants a death penalty. I do think if somebody dies as a result of it, yeah, you're in now.
If I have a kilo of heroin, yeah, I deserve a bullet.
So let me rephrase it. If you have prior convictions in your criminal convictions of drug possession with intent to distribute, and you are caught again with a certain amount of weight or over, and you've got a history of doing it, you should be executed. You have been doing
like a 3-strike thing.
Oh, we're not going to agree on this. Oh my God.
You've dealt drugs in the past. You've been arrested. You've been charged. And here you are again with more weight than you've had in the past. It's a safe assumption. You've killed people. We're not dealing with you anymore.
If somebody dies of an overdose or a poisoning, what's happening is they don't track down the dealer. They don't. It's just like, oh, they died. Oh, well, we got so many happening. Just get them in the morgue. Who cares?
They used to test the drugs and be able to tell, if they arrested you and you had a bundle on you, they would used to be able to test the drugs and say it came from the batch that this guy had.
They probably still can do that. You just don't hear about it now. I mean, you talk to,
but no matter what you do to stop it, it's going to be an overreach of power if it's beyond the limits of the Constitution. And that seems to me exactly what even so much as stop and frisk is, and any of that. It's an overreach.
I think killing people before they've committed a murder is insanity, and that is overreach. And I hope that that's not what his intention is with this. And I don't think it would fly anyway. I don't think it would. I don't know how you can, for possession with intent to sell, even if you sell it, it just doesn't add up, guys. I don't know.
I lived in a neighborhood where there were shootings every day, right? And people were selling that stuff like it was hotcakes. And it didn't matter how many times they got arrested. They were going to come out and just continue to do what they did. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to stop. No, they're not going to stop until you stop them.
If somebody in that neighborhood who was selling, somebody overdosed on something they sold, they traced it back to them, and they put that kid in the electric chair or the shot or whatever they do now, that would have an effect on a neighborhood. That would have a chilling effect. There is no doubt about it. I mean, it's for a murder, but to just say, you know, everybody, we're going to round you up and stick you with the euthanize
right
you.
now,
Come on, what are we doing? What are we?
All I
Hitler.
can say is
That's
right
Hitler
now
shit.
the punishment doesn't fit the crime, because what they don't see is the little kid who barely has a bowl of cereal to eat in the morning, who doesn't have clothes, the baby in the dirty diapers, and the family that's just in ruins, and the kids sleeping on the streets because the mom and dad are on heroin because this guy sold it to them. It's bigger than just that little hit of dope.
I'm not saying it should be light. I'm not saying it should be light. I'm saying save the death penalty for the murdering drug dealer who sold something that poisoned someone to death. You know, that will have a chilling effect.
So make it attempted murder. Whatever the attempted murder statute is, give that to him. If you have the heroin on you, it's attempted murder.
And there's no death penalty for that. So, right?
Where do we draw the line when we say, hey, this is too many times, we're done with you? I mean, 50 times dealing and caught, 100 times dealing and caught. Do we wait till we can actually prove that him dealing drugs over 10 years, we can attribute a dead body to him?
For the death penalty? Yes.
I think if you deal that poison, you know what you're doing. You're not stupid. You know what you're doing, and you know you're going to kill people. You're willingly dealing poison that is going to kill someone.
I'm literally sitting here as we were saying this and going through my mental Rolodex. I can easily name 10 people real quick that died from heroin overdose.
Yeah,
I can too. There are, listen, my neighborhood in Boston, look up Charlestown heroin deaths. It's like at least a couple times a month in a small 1 square mile neighborhood in Boston. It's all the time. It's not that and all of them, I have never heard of any of the police tracking down the dealer and prosecuting the dealer for the death. Never. It doesn't have. That's what I'm saying. In that case, okay, if you want to go for the death penalty there, I don't like it, but okay, I understand it. But again, to me, like, it's like selling ammunition that to illegally to somebody that may kill somebody with it.
But ammunition, there's no intent with ammunition to murder, right? Just because I own a gun, I can legally do that. Like, there's no legal reason to have heroin.
There's no intent to murder with heroin either. It's not an
isn't there?
No, it's disregard of a possible.
Once in disregard of anyone's health or well-being is pretty serious.
I'm not defending drug dealers, guys. I'm just saying that. I'm saying that to just dole out the death penalty like it's like we're playing God here is some crazy shit, and that's the kind of thing that's going to get people to go, this is not okay. It should be attached to murder charges related. There
should be some criteria. Of course, you should have some criteria that you don't just walk.
We didn't start this conversation there. We started this conversation. You got that stuff, bullet, and I was.
If you have a history of convictions with intent to distribute, then they should start looking at a death penalty. Like, hey, we've arrested you 10 times. You have not learned. You're still dealing with poison.
I'm glad.
The only thing that's going to get through your head is a bullet. You're killing people. We know you're killing people. Just because
Maduro did this. You brought up the Philippines. Maduro did this in the Philippines, and the crime rate went all the way down to almost nothing. And it's a tourist destination now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that proves my point. You get one guy in the neighborhood, link a murder to him, give him the needle, knock him out. It'll have a chilling effect. Like, you know, that. I
don't think it will anymore.
So you think in the Philippines they killed all the criminals? I doubt that.
They went out on hunts every night.
They rounded them up. They
actually
went
went
out
out
and looked
hunting.
for them.
They actually went out hunting and
Yeah.
they took guns and they took all the police and they literally just rolled up shooting people that they caught selling drugs on the spot in the street. And Maduro was the first one to do it. Their own president said, you don't want to do it here. Let me show you how it's done. Boom. And he just killed them right in front of everybody.
They're pretty harsh over there. Yeah, they don't play. I hate to get a speeding ticket over there. I don't know what they do.
That's not due process, and
I get it. I get it. I'm not for the Constitution to be completely forgotten about in the mix of trying to fix the issue. But what I'm saying here is that it definitely, the level of drug dealing is barely above a misdemeanor in most places, and it's just not as serious as it should be.
Couldn't agree more with that. Like I 100% agree that it should be far more, because and the problem is the prosecutors, the legislators, everybody that wants to feel sorry for the drug dealer and not the lives destroyed that you're talking about, the poor little kid who's going hungry because
but also
zombied out.
Don't forget that all the opium that comes into this country, most of it comes by way of Afghanistan and China. So it's not here. It's not being grown here. It's not being done here. They're importing it. Who was the previous? Who used to import it more than anyone else in the whole country? It wasn't drug dealers. It wasn't what's his name? Freeway Ricky Ross and all those guys that got all that. Bumpy Johnson. Remember Bumpy Johnson, American Gangster, all those guys. Those guys got their drugs. All their heroin came by way of the government, the CIA, and those guys shipping it over here from Vietnam and all those other places in the coffins of dead soldiers and all. And there's no way. Who's his name? Michael Rupert. Not even 5 years ago, came out with so much evidence that the government was still in the drug dealing business. And now Michael Rupert is. They kicked him out of his own country. They kicked him out. He's in oh man, I think he's in Venezuela. And he was born and raised here. Michael Rupert was born and raised here. His mom and dad were both law enforcement before him. And he was on C-SPAN handing all of his evidence about this situation to them, trying to be on record so they wouldn't kill him.
Do they still do acid seizures?
Oh yeah, if you get caught dealing drugs, you you lose your house, your car, everything.
Seize it and sell it. Start doing that again.
They still do it. They still do it in Maryland and places where I know.
Let's make it a national law. You get caught dealing drugs, and we can tie the money that you've made to your house, your car. We're seizing it. You'll live on the street.
The problem with that is if you can tie it to the drug money, yes. But the problem is that in the places where I know it was used, it usually end up hurting the wrong people. It ended up hurting the kids because they lost their house, their car, their clothes, whatever they had.
But you know what? Dad, mom want to make these choices. It's going to trickle down. The choices we make as parents trickle down to our children. So that's like, unfortunately, it's like a lib mentality to be like, well, we should feel sorry for the kids.
That's like the cages, right? You're keeping the kids separate in cages from their friends. Like you committed a crime. Like,
sorry,
I get it.
Yeah, but I understand. But I love that there's sympathy there, because there should be. We should have sympathy for them, but at the same time, it's a tough shit.
The sympathy doesn't overrule our good sense on the right, and on the left, that's exactly what it does. It's all heart and no head at all.
What's the saying? For sympathy, look between syphilis and shit. You'll find sympathy in the dictionary.
I do believe that a lot of the lib voters and general citizens fall into this, overly emotional thing. But I think that the politicians actually don't care. They just play on that emotion in order to get power. I mean, right? I mean, I say that like it's a revelation. Like it's clear as
they
day.
Just tried to kill their political opponent. So they don't give two shits about nothing. You, me, anything.
Laws, schmalls.
I mean, look at this fentanyl crisis that we have in this country. None of the lib prosecutors care. Oregon just now started to reverse some of its let everyone have heroin policies because they realized, despite what everyone told them in advance, they're realizing that it's not helping and it's only making the problem worse. And they're actually having more homeless people go there to places like Portland because they can just sit in a coffee shop and shoot up. And it's like, nobody's allowed to say anything because it's rude.
Have you seen that video on YouTube? I think it's in Portland where the guy's walking through the subway and it looks like zombies. People with the fentanyl fold, sleeping on the ground, needles in the arm. It's not
coming
like
out their
1 or 2.
skin and stuff.
It's like 50 people.
I've seen that with my own eyes. It is
It's
the
ridiculous.
scariest. It is the strangest experience as like a sober person just going to a store and there are people
Knotted out in the grocery aisle.
standing up, knotted out.
If you just take a look
frozen.
on YouTube and type in Baltimore nod, there are people I know that just drive around in their car just to catch them at bus stops and whatever, and then they put these collages together, and they think it's funny. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's probably some comedy there, regardless of how we feel. But the reality of it is, it's sad. It's really sad.
Somebody's child. It's somebody's child.
And we have these Norcon and all these other drugs. And I forget the other one. Next naloxone. That's what it's called. Essentially, it cures the heroin addiction. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but it's literally you get one shot every 6 months or something like that. You can't get high. The opium won't work. You can't get high. All it will do is make you sick. That's it. And it gets rid of the Band-Aid like Suboxone and the other things that are actually much worse. Methadone, which is much worse than heroin, much worse.
What happens after that's really awesome. But then even when people get that, they don't get the services they need after that. I have a friend, a guy named Jack Kelly. He wrote this really intense book called Sharp Needle about his own heroin addiction. And what he talks about that most people don't is the PTSD that heroin addicts are left with, because what they go through while they are heroin addicts, there are women, they'll sell themselves, women just having sex with anybody that'll give them a hit.
Must find copper.
Rape, prostitution, rape, violence, fighting, like seeing other people die, seeing your friends dropping dead. They're so screwed up from it. So
and
it's
the
not
whole
just
family.
like, oh, they're better now. Yeah,
the entire family. I mean,
all
listen,
their relationships.
I had that with one of somebody very close to me in their family, and the family's running around. They didn't want to enable the individual. So they put him out, and then they're scared because they put him out that he's going to die on the streets because he's on this stuff. And they chased him to tunnels. The person lived in tunnels. They were everything that they could to take them food and still care, but wouldn't let them in the house and didn't ever give them money. And it's just crying and praying to God every night that this person wakes up. Now, in this particular case, the individual I'm talking about did wake up, but came back with a ton of scars. I mean, a ton of scars and stories that will probably weigh on them for the entirety of their lives. The things that they've seen and they went through. And yes, drug dealing, drug use and addiction. I'm not one of those people that think it's a disease. I don't. I lived it. I've seen it. And I never wanted to give anyone the excuse of it's a disease. It's your weak mind is what it is. If you want to stop doing drugs, you stop doing drugs. The addiction is that little monkey on your back telling you to do it, but it's your choice whether you want to do it or not. Now, I have gone through my own thing and never any heroin business or anything like that. I have had in my younger days, I've had to fight addiction. Not much of a different addiction. It was addiction to painkillers, but I went through it.
Yeah, that counts. Yeah.
I went through it, and it's the same. It's the same withdrawal as heroin. It's no different. It's the same one. But when I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I can't go anywhere, do anything. I'm always counting my pills to make sure I have enough, and I can't stop going to work because if I want to go to rehab, I got to stop going to work, and I can't afford to do that. And what do I do? And what I did was I suffered for about 2 weeks, and I continued to go to work. And I did it, and I got to the other side of it, and I said, holy shit, I'll never do that ever again. And I don't know what it is for anybody. I think everybody's rock bottom is different.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, essentially, you got to love something in this world enough to want to stop. What it is you got to love yourself enough, because if you're doing it for somebody else, you're going to end up falling again.
It won't last. And at the end of the day, we can do what we can do in this country to stop it until we deal with the cartels. And I know that's another thing you're going to talk about at another time. But until you deal with the cartels, it's never going to stop.
All right. Well, we got absolutely nowhere with the one question of how is it that that Trump expects local departments to stop the open drug use. We got nowhere with that. So let's just move on and let's see, hopefully that he comes up with some details on that plan, because we're not going to be on that. We're not going to be on that panel, and he's not calling us to join the White House for that one. Okay.
Please cross our pictures off now.
But there were some other places where he might call us in. All right, here, hold on. Let's hear his next part, which is directly connected to it.
Third, we will go after the radical Marxist prosecutors who are abolishing cash bail, refusing to charge crimes, and surrendering our cities to violent criminals. They have surrendered like never before. I will direct the DOJ to open civil rights investigations into radical left prosecutors' offices, such as those in Chicago, LA, and San Francisco, to determine whether they have illegally engaged in race-based enforcement of the law. I will also work with Congress to give the victims of their Marxist policies the right to sue local officials for harm and suffering, and it has been great that they have caused. If your small business is pillaged because shoplifting goes unpunished, if you're brutally attacked by a violent felon released without bail or bond, then you will be entitled to massive damages.
Ooh, what a good, I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Hell yeah.
Because look, Gascon I did a whole podcast on this. Look, we all saw David Chappelle attacked on stage. Every one of us, everybody's seen the clip. There were thousands of people there. That guy was free that night, guys. He went to jail and they let him out. He, in front of thousands of people with a knife in his hand, jumped on stage, went up to Dave Chappelle and tried to take his life, and he walked free. There was another situation where a lady was walking, a young woman, walking through an alley with her baby stroller in tow, and this guy swerves out of his way to hit her in her baby stroller and everything.
Oh, I remember this, yeah.
And the baby stroller went up in the air and come down with the girl, and the guy just takes off. He got 5 months of probation. 5 months. Because Gascon didn't want to indict or didn't want to push the charges on him because they weren't 25 years old. So their thinking is that the brain isn't fully formed until 25. So you make really bad decisions up until then. That's why they let 12-year-olds cut off their junk, because
right. That's okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's they will use any excuse to let a criminal go free, and they say it's about compassion and giving them another chance. Look at Rachel Rollins, who was the DA in Suffolk County in Boston, and I met her while she was running for office. A friend of mine had her over to talk, and she's sitting there. And this is like when all this crap started with the no prosecuting DAs, and she's like, so if somebody commits a crime and they steal or they hurt somebody, she goes, what we want to do instead of automatically prosecuting them is pick it up and look at it and really try to understand their life and all the circumstances around the crime. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, now I'm at somebody else's house, so I'm polite. But I was like, but isn't that just like disregarding the law? And everyone else in the room was like we're all trying to be polite, because apparently she's better than us. No, she was a lowlife.
Let's use Joe Biden's own words.
Post.
Use Joe Biden's own words. He said, we don't have time to ask them what kind of life they led while they're robbing your grandmother and beating her over the head. They need to go to jail. That's what Joe Biden said.
That kind of stuff comes up during sentencing. Like, hey, you were abused, you lived on the street. That's what that comes up. Not when you're deciding whether to prosecute.
Whether or not they committed a crime when you have all the evidence.
Yeah, you've hit somebody, you've killed somebody. I have evidence. I think I can go to trial. I'm pretty sure I get an eviction. I'm going to prosecute. Not, you had a really rough life. Your mom left you. You had to eat chocolate.
Exactly.
That doesn't matter until sentencing.
Well, they should all. I am so for all these small businesses that were destroyed by ransacking, fire, theft, just constant theft. People who, like you said, like the woman we saw at the RNC who said, Alvin Bragg let these violent criminals back out on the street early, and they ended up stabbing her son to death.
Lake and Riley's killer the same way.
They should be able to sue the pants off of them, get them kicked out of their posts disbarred, all of it.
The other thing that we should do is, and I'm saying this, listen, guys, I've done 5 years in a maximum security prison. I've been there. I've done that. You know what I came away with? Prosecute harder, more punishment. And if somebody murders somebody, they forfeited their own life. Now, I'm talking to you as someone who's literally been in the position.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been so close to these individuals, I feel like I have a good, feel or take on how they are and what they're going to do for society.
Certainly better than
And
I
I'm
do, yes.
telling you that if you don't prosecute, if you don't do something as harsh as we're supporting people in prison for 50, 60 years behind killing somebody, and they're a drain on the taxpayer. If you take someone's life, you forfeited your own. And the law, like you said, it should be taken into account for sentencing. I had a hard life. My mom and dad, blah, blah, blah. The judge has the ability to show a certain amount of leniency there. But whether or not to prosecute should not be up to some liberal DA. Meanwhile, the victim is the real victim over here is nowadays being treated like the criminal.
That's exactly what's happening. That's fascinating. It kind of ties right into his first point, which is he wants to open civil rights investigations to see if they are making these choices of treating the criminals like they're the victims based on race.
Yeah.
And see if that they've actually been discriminatory. What do you guys think about that?
They have been.
I've seen it.
I mean,
they're actually outwardly saying it, right?
I've seen it. Look, guys. I own my own house. I had letters from my pastor, my boss, my everything. I'd never been in trouble before. I'd never been locked up before. None of that. And when I went before the parole hearing, they all voted no. The next guy who went in, I almost said his name, but the next guy who went in literally told him, I don't want your damn parole. And they forced it down his throat. Told him he had to take it. And the reason why was very easy, very simple. What was the difference between me and that guy? I had more parole points than he did. I had everything going for me. I even owned my own house, and I was in a rush to get home, so I didn't lose it. Right? I had letters from people saying I was going to be gainfully employed. I'd never been in trouble before, but I was the lily white guy that, cannot be shown favor. And that was what happened. And I'll take that to my death. That's exactly how I felt about it then and how I feel about it now.
I mean, look at when BLM was burning down cities, they never got prosecuted. They never got arrested. No. They were allowed to do it over and over and over again.
The police force, the training you were just talking about earlier, when Antifa went down there and they were throwing Molotov cocktails into the training facility in Georgia, they did it on camera. Yeah. How many of them got arrested? Where's the investigation at? With those guys burning down a police training facility, throwing Molotov cocktails, no one was ever arrested.
This is going to take a massive effort alone just to look into, you're just like rattling off situations off the top of your head. And I mean, there are so many, there are dozens at least.
Yeah.
Probably thousands in reality of situations like this where they're going to have to look into these prosecutors, and they're going to call it political persecution, even though these are actual constitutional infringements of Americans' rights.
But one of the things they could do on the other side of that is start allowing people to have a pathway back to restoring their rights and allowing them to be exonerated. And hey, I've done my time. I've done this. Listen, part of the reason that I made the dramatic changes that I had is I had my own encounter with God, right? It changed me completely, right? And the person that I am here and the things that I say on here are the things that I live out in real life. Anyone that's around me can tell you I'm like this morning, noon, and night. All my same opinions, the same way I say them, everything. And I did that. And when I was in prison and I was I was linked up in those places, I was in everybody in prison. Let me give everybody a quick little education. Everybody in prison that's not on a protective custody yard is in a prison gang. I hate to tell you that, but they are. So it doesn't matter if you're just clicked up with your race or a specific group of people or whatever, but everybody's in a group. And the group that I was in was full of cartel and killers. and I had face-to-face conversations, a very candid ones with these people. And there's just people that should never see the light of day again. And then there are people that want a second chance, and they should be afforded a program or a way to enter in and go through and come out the other side and be members of society as they were before they ever got in trouble.
I agree.
And that should definitely happen, because I tell you what, one of the things I miss the most is going hunting. And I've never shot anyone in my life, nor would I ever want to, unless you're trying to hurt somebody in my family. But I can't own a weapon. I can't own a gun. I can't do anything. And one, I disagree with that because it's a violation of my Second Amendment rights. But, you know, there should be something that I can do at this point to prove that I'm not the guy you need to take your rights away from.
I firmly believe after you do your time, you're square with the house. Your tab is paid. You have no more bill. You should enter back into society just like before you went in.
I agree.
Yes,
I agree. You should be able to vote again. I think.
Oh, I can vote.
I think there are certain crimes that I think are underpunished. Like, you know, so there's like rape, murder. You know, there were people.
Those should be capital punishment when you rape somebody.
Where people get out. You know, rape. Most places people get 3 to 5 years. It's like it's nothing.
That's
you know?
terrible.
And
That's
so
terrible. I like what DeSantis did with that.
I don't want that guy exonerated. I want that on his record.
Oh no, I agree.
I don't want. I want you to have to still check the box. Yes, they committed a felony. Like I don't have any sympathy for certain things. I'm sorry.
I'm like that with crimes against children.
Right.
Capital punishment. You hurt a child. It's over.
All right, guys. We promised the audience that we were going to talk about Agenda 47. I'm asking again. I'm actually getting a little frustrated because I'm breaking my promise to my audience, and I sold this as I've been talking for a week about how I am going to be presenting the truth about Agenda 47 and really trying to dig into Trump's policies, and we're not doing that tonight. So can we get back to that, please? All right, let's go to. Sorry to be school marmy, but you know, I gotta. I am trying to educate America on this our future president's agenda. So let's see his next point here in his Law and Order platform.
Fourth, I will order the Department of Justice, or some people call it the Department of Injustice right now, and Homeland Security dismantle every gang, street crew, and drug network in America. Every single one of them will be dismantled. We already know where these turf wars and drug dens are. We know who the people are. And we're going to charge them and charge the culprits with every crime that we can find. We're going to be fair, but we're going to be tough. We also need the death penalty for drug dealers. So important. And I'd add to that human traffickers, drug dealers and human traffickers. They get the death penalty. Watch it stop, and stop quickly. Fifth, in cities where there has been a complete breakdown of law and order, where the fundamental right of our citizens are being intolerably violated, I will not hesitate to send in federal assets, including the National Guard, until safety is restored.
All right, so Eddie, you had a lot to say about that before, about sending in the feds to restore law and order. Mm-hmm. Does that necessarily require the suspension of constitutional rights that you mentioned earlier? Is that the only way? Is that the only way to do that? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, because your Fourth Amendment and the 13th Amendment precludes them from being able just to come in and run up in your house or stop you. You actually have to commit a crime before they can intervene. But what he's talking about doing is going in based off of things that they've known in past investigations and going into homes and, issuing search warrants based on those hunches and things like that to break up gangs. He's got his work cut out for him. But yeah, you can't do any of that without violating someone's civil rights. And the only way you get around that is you have to suspend the civil rights for a time. It has to be suspended for a time. And that's what he was talking about when he said, that's why all the Democrats were like, he's going to suspend the Constitution. Like, yes. And it's happened before. Yep. And it worked before.
I mean, anytime you initiate martial law, you're going to make change. There's no way you can't change the situation. If you do that. You
got a ton of Democrats that are in office, Stacey Abrams, and those types of people throughout the United States. And when you have all these Democrats that are congressmen and senators constantly fighting you and everything you're doing, mayors and cities, When you have martial law, none of that matters. Like
Yep.
their authority doesn't matter. And nothing matters. Like you can go in and clean something up and be done with it.
The U.S. Marshals of the law. This is what we're going to do. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
curfews,
The military
stop
operation.
risk. Yeah, it's whatever we want to do, we're going to do. And if you don't like it, stay in your house, because if you come out, your ass is mine.
And if people don't think it's necessary, I challenge you to go look at the crime stats in your area. You're in more danger than you probably think you are. In Vegas, people didn't have any idea how many serial killers they lived around, how many gangs they lived around,
Wow.
and what the initiation process for those gangs are, which are usually taking an innocent, unsuspecting person's life in order to get in. This is what the 18th Street gang does out here, and many, many others, including MS-13. If you don't take a life, an innocent, unsuspecting life, walking down the street, or driving down the road, they just go that one. If you don't see the danger in that and realize how many of them there are, and then look at how many unsolved murders there are and how many missing people you have.
The bar, I don't know the
I agree
laws
with
on
him.
that. Like the bar must be extremely high because we're already living in we've seen so much chaos over the past several years and they haven't instituted martial law. Like why are they also afraid of doing it?
Because that's heavy.
Popularity contest.
That's
Trump
dropping.
don't have no popularity contest to worry about.
That's pretty much going, you know what? We're pissing on the Constitution for 90 days. You don't like it, too bad. It's a very heavy, violent act. Because
You know who
saying
won't like
everything
it?
the country stands for no longer matters. We're not where you're at right now is no longer the U.S. It's now U.S. Marshal territory. They are God. They will tell you where you can and can't go, when you can and can't go, and how long you can stay there.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
It is. That's why it's very rarely used.
That's why you have to do it for a point in time.
Has it been used? When has it been used? I really don't know a lot about
I
that.
remember in Philadelphia back in the 80s, something was going on. They temporarily enforced martial law. I think for 72 hours in part of the city.
Bush initiated it too after 9/11, and we allowed the military to operate on U.S. soil after 9/11 in several cities, including Maryland and New York and others.
But were there freedom? But freedoms weren't restricted, were they?
Yeah, they were.
They have to. Yeah.
They stopped whole Greyhound buses and the military took people off and searched them and put them back on, which is illegal under the Constitution. But because it was suspended at the time,
not illegal anymore. Yeah,
it's not illegal.
And I think wanting to dismantle every gang in the country is great. I don't think it's attainable.
I don't think it's attainable either.
There's just too many.
You can't fight an idea.
Yeah, there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of gangs, and unless you're willing to get down and dirty with the gangs, you're not going to end them. And I wouldn't want a president that's willing to get down in the gutter with the gangs to fight the gangs.
No, because then you become what you hate.
Yeah, then it becomes a slippery slope. Where do we stop?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes back to getting prosecutors that will prosecute, police that will arrest, judges that will enforce, and prisons that aren't like going to a family reunion.
Coupled with the restoration of our national identity and creating a situation where people actually love their country and their communities.
That would be nice. I missed that. That was 5 minutes ago. Like this crazy downfall happened over a decade. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
And they educated it into them. It came from the schools, from the elementary schools, from middle schools, high schools, colleges. It came from the press. And when you turn your TV on, all of these people is what it took to change the mentality of the next generation and have them, ripping up American flags and lighting them on fire and thinking it's cool to hate America. Hey guys, did you see the flag I just burned? Look, I'll get 50 points. This is what they've done. This is when you get rid of the national identity and make people okay with destroying the country they live in, you lost. Like there's no way to fix that if it's embedded into a generation. So that's where we got to focus. We got to fix the culture and the hearts of Americans.
We have to do that. That's our job.
Starts in the schools,
but we need him to come in and really strong arm. He does. Mm-hmm. I do want him to get in the gutter with the gangs and the drug networks. I'm sorry, like it has to.
No, to a degree.
They have to rumble. It's time, and they've been allowed to just operate freely for far too long.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to do anything. Let cops be cops.
Yeah, just like cops. Get out of the way. You don't need it. You don't even need new legislation.
You're talking about ham and eggers. I mean, I'm talking about the big guys. There are big networks. There are big head honchos, big massive drug
And
cartels
we used to
operating
go
here.
after them.
They have the same weapons as our army. I mean, the cops are going against them.
Listen,
If
remember
you start
Frank
street
Nettie?
level,
You remember
that's where you
Frank
start.
Nettie in the whole Chicago mob scene and New Jersey
I
mob
don't.
scene? We used to go at them. We used to arrest them. We used to do hell. We went after Bonanno and the whole bunch of them before. These guys are not bigger than them. So really, it's just we let it get too out of hand. And unfortunately, to get back to where we belong from where we are, it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be painless.
And it's going to be a while. It's not going to happen overnight.
And people crying about, how we do it is just going to slow it down.
Yep. And I agree with him on human trafficking. That should be a death penalty.
Yeah, but he said drug dealing should be a death penalty too, right? You heard that?
I didn't hear
I
that.
feel like we talked about that.
You heard
already.
that.
I feel like we might have. I know, but what we were talking about is the nuance around that. What does that mean? Drug dealing? Like, we don't need to get into it again, but because I really did enjoy that part of the conversation. But yes, he did say that it should be. I'm going to find clarity. I'm going to get you guys back on here, and we're going to duke this out some more because I want to find out exactly what he means by that.
Yeah, human trafficking should be a death penalty too.
Yeah, and to say drugs in general, I would not be like, oh, that guy's got an ounce of weed, kill him.
Yeah,
like, no,
he's got a joint, shoot him.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
But yeah, I think
it has to fit the crime.
Yeah, if you're selling human beings for any reason, you know what? Why even bother with a trial?
I won't take us off topic. Yeah, he just said that though, but they were arguing in California about that this morning. There were an LGBT group saying that they were arguing against a law that was trying to be put into effect to keep people from selling children for sex. And there was a large group of LGBTQ community people that were there against the law. Like, I kid you not.
Because they said it disproportionately affects their community. And
I was blown away.
You said that shit
blown
out loud?
away.
Yeah,
I was blown away.
I can't think of any lower form of human being than another human being kidnapping and selling children.
Yeah,
I can't.
I can't imagine defending a law or trying to get a law abolished that's trying to protect the children. That's the crazy part.
And so I agree with Trump on that completely. Execute human traffickers. Why? They're not even human. They're subhuman.
You know what? I actually, so where we said earlier, I said that I do believe that if we had a death penalty for certain drug offenses, that it would have a chilling effect. I don't think it would have a chilling effect on human traffickers, because I think they make drug dealers
already callous.
They make drug dealers, look like Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It'll make me feel better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Killing some human
and it'll make a child or an adult who was trafficked by that person feel better, because I know that if I can tell you straight up, when somebody defends you, when somebody stands up for you and does the right thing, it is part of the healing of a trauma. Imagine being a little kid and you're getting beat up by somebody at school. Your big cousin or brother comes in and kicks the shit out of them. You're like, it made all those beatings feel less heavy.
Do we reinstitute the Roman circus?
Why not? For the human traffickers?
Sure.
I mean, it's a little sick, but why not? I mean, let's put that in Agenda 47.
It's a good deterrent. Lions dens. Yeah, sure.
All right, this is another one he's not going to call us to advise them on.
You never know. He might.
He probably likes that one. I'll tell you that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I honestly, throw him in with the Lions. Yeah, no.
I mean, there's some crimes that are unforgivable. No matter what they do or how much time they serve, you're not going to be forgiven. And I think human trafficking is one of those crimes that, hey, you did it, you're stained, you're going to have a black mark for the rest of your life. So you know what? Rather than have to deal with you every day, we're just going to drag you out back behind the courthouse, park one in the back of your head and throw you in a dumpster, because that's where you belong.
That was one of the focuses of his first administration. And, he never got credit for that. The mainstream media, they don't care. They're into it. They're on board with it.
They are not media, like real media. Yeah. Guys, I'm telling you, in no uncertain terms, what you're seeing play out in front of you in the media is Project Mockingbird. they're not real free press. That's
They're
not.
actors. It's all
They're actors and they're intelligence agents and their CHSs and their whatever, but they're not just out there to tell you the truth. And you can tell because we're here telling the truth. Things would sound a lot like that on the news right now, but it doesn't. It's meant to dumb people down and give us the stories that'll keep us calm and elicit specific emotion that fits their agenda.
I agree.
Oh,
That's why I'm
man.
angry.
That's why we're all, yeah, me too. That's why.
Did you not find your overlay? Elena, did you not see it?
I did. I want to move on to juvenile crime per Donald Trump. Let's see if we're a little more sympathetic to the kids.
We should be, depending on what they do.
We will end the leftist takeover of school discipline and juvenile justice. Many of these carjackers and criminals are 13, 14, and 15 years old. I will order the Education and Justice Departments to overhaul federal standards on disciplining minors. So when troubled youth are out in control, they're out on the streets and they're going wild, we will stop it. The consequences are swift, certain, and strong, and they will know that.
I'm good with that.
Well, the Democrats aren't good with that. So Ayanna Pressley a few years ago had tried to push a bill through, which went nowhere because, she's with her, the bald-headed one with the big mouth and the meanness and everything is like,
my God. She looks like she looks like Tyler Perry's Nutty Professor creation.
She is such an evil, dark witch. And but you're so right. Oh.
Listen.
Oh boy. I just got this taken off of YouTube.
They do need to enforce these laws. Guys, look, we saw the teen mobs in Chicago running crazy and hurting people, literally knocking on apartment doors, and whoever answered, they would just run in and beat them up. And it was hundreds of them, right? It was hundreds of them. You're not going to affect change that way if you don't round them all up and lock them all up and give them consequences.
I got one better than that.
And then you got to do something. How do you fix their mentality to where they don't want to do that no more until how do you change hearts in that situation? Because no matter what, this is the problem. When you put people in prison or in jail or wherever, they're around other criminals. What they do is they usually end up coming out with more contacts. They're more criminal. Networking, and then when you put someone in there who's not really a criminal, sometimes they come out a criminal because of that. We need a way to fix the jail and the prison system so that people go in one way and come out another. Right? Because I can tell you, they don't do anything like that in there. If you want to be in a program, good luck. I was trying for 2 whole years before I even got a no back. Like it doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen.
But we don't even want to prevent them from going in. And the Democrats don't want to prevent them from going in the first place. They don't want to stop them from doing anything wrong.
They don't even want you to call them a mob, right?
What I started to say, call them what?
A mob. Remember the mayor of Chicago told the press, don't call them mobsters, don't call them thugs, don't, literally
they can't call them thugs. Yeah, for sure. Thug is racist, even though I would say that about a white thug too. But oh my God. So anyway, Presley, here's a perfect example. We're talking about juveniles, we're talking about schools. How she's always talking about guns kill kids and blah, blah, blah. And so one of the things she wanted to remove federal funding from schools that used metal detectors and had a police officer in the school. So take out the cops, take out the metal detectors, but kids aren't safe and we should protect them from guns. Because the reason she did that is because those metal detectors and those cops are racist because, they stop black
metal detectors are racist.
Kids. Yes. Yeah. Goddamn, Eddie, catch up. Yeah. Everything is racist that brings law and order. So
it's like Pete Buttigieg said highways were racist. So I guess everything is racist.
Everything is you're racist. You're racist. You're racist.
I ran for the BOE where I live in 2018, and my big platform was school safety. And people go, well, we just need to have metal detectors. We just need to have police. And I've tried to tell people, security is like an onion. There has to be layers. It's not just one thing. It's not just two things. It's not just three things. It's a multitude of things. Mm-hmm. And what they can see is the best deterrent. Metal detectors. Now I can't bring a gun into school. They're going to catch me. Police officers. Oh, there's a cop in the hallway. If I start acting a fool, he's going to get me.
Exactly.
There's cameras. There's this. There's that. We need a lot.
And it's not just school fights; it's assault.
It's everything.
The Democrats want to take them out.
That's why I lost, because the Democrats didn't like me. I was the Antichrist. But I think the best way to affect juvenile crime is, number one, and I said it, I think last time we spoke, starts at home. Parents have to be parents. They got to stop trying to be their kids' friends and want to hang out. Be mom, be dad. Punish them. Hold them accountable. Teach them about limits. Teach them about rules. Teach them what happens when you break the rules. Second, if a kid commits a crime, depending on the crime, hold the parents just as responsible as the child.
Yep.
If your kid got caught shoplifting, it's a $50 fine. And both of you have to go to court and explain to the judge what happened.
Yep.
You're the parent. You should have known what your kid was doing. If you didn't, that's another issue we're going to tackle in court. If a kid, I don't think kids should go to prison pending on the crime. They should go to work camps or boot camps and spend months there. And you'll learn this.
You had them in New York. I'm sure you had shock. What is it called? Shock program. It's a shock program or whatever.
Yeah.
It's basically boot camp. It's basic training, and they have to get up 5 o'clock in the morning every day, make their bed, run them this.
They had the Scared Straight. Is that what you're talking about?
It's similar to Scared Straight, but it's like boot camp on top of that.
They have like police officers or military run a camp, and for however long you're sentenced, you're in boot camp.
And you got to work to like get to a point where you can train dogs. I don't know,
guys. That really hurts feelings. You know, we can't do that because it hurts feelings.
But I'd rather have a hurt kid feelings than a kid shot by cops.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. Look, I'm with you. I would love that. I mean, that's the problem. That's how they got there to begin with, a complete lack of discipline and self-respect and rules. So I like those. I like the all of those ideas, and I hope that that's what we're talking about here when he's talking about having
fixing the home, guys.
Set up the the
education
system.
Yeah, no matter what we do, if it doesn't work at home, it's not going to work anywhere else. It has to start at home. Parents have got to be more involved.
It's going to take a generation to change that, because we've already got kids that are in school and they're in the school system. So we can at least we have to tackle it from every single angle, because we can't control the parents. But if we could get this crap out of the school systems, it could help.
First thing we could do is undo the damage done by presidents like LBJ, who made it impossible for families to stay together and still receive assistance. So we need to put dads back in the home. You want a deterrent for crime for sons and daughters? How about a dad in the house?
Yeah.
Right. That's the number one first thing that you should figure out how to do is keep dad home. Right. And if you can do that, then you're 8 times less likely to see that child offend and go to prison or do any of those things.
I can't remember where it was, but I read about a program at a middle school where children or kids that didn't have fathers could join a club. It was called Mentors or something. And it was fathers who ran the club, and they would meet like twice a week and they would just talk.
That's
and
awesome.
These kids' grades went up. Their issues in school went down because now they had a father figure in their life that actually would spend time going, "Hey, dude, I heard you got in trouble today. What are you thinking? What is the problem?" I think every school should have that.
Do you think that they should get out of the way of the discipline that the parents inflict on the children and stop mind their own damn business? To a degree.
There's a fine line between discipline and abuse.
Because I got my ass whooped and I deserved it. I'm the first one to tell you.
I used to run from my old man because he was like Indiana Jones with the belt. I was afraid of him. But I thank God he spanked me. I thank God today that he took that time because he loved me enough to discipline me. Because if he didn't care about me, he'd have been like, you know what, go do what you want to do. I don't care.
I don't give. Yeah. You're either saving college money or bail money.
Yeah,
one of the two. And I'd rather have the former, not the latter. And CPS and the school counselors and all that, they need to mind their own damn business. They really do.
They're a huge part of the problem, especially now that the school counselors are all into the gender stuff, and every time
they're regendering your kids.
You have a problem at home. Come here. They don't understand you. Frankie, you're
leading the witness. Right?
When I first got out of the
You're
Navy,
a girl, aren't you?
I still had razor burn on my head from getting shaves. And my first job was loss prevention at a department store named Ames. I don't know if that was national.
I remember Ames.
Okay,
they still got Ames.
Yep, no, they're gone now. But that was my very first job out of the hand.
I haven't even heard that name in forever.
Loss prevention needed. I was like, I just got out of the Navy. I'm bored. Let me get a job. Took it. I caught kid after kid after kid after kid after kid stealing. Parents would come in and they'd laugh. Oh, it's, all kids do this. All kids do that.
I hate when people say stuff
I
like
got
that.
to the point where I work with the local, I guess, I don't know what the sheriff's department, but a department in the county government. We started a mediation program for shoplifters under the age of 18. So they would have to sit down with me, the mediator, a police officer, and their parents. And then during this mediation, if they didn't admit to, hey, I stole this, they had to go to court. Nobody wanted to go to court, so they were forced to admit, hey, I screwed up. This is what I did. And then they'd have to listen to me, listen to the deputy, listen to the mediator. And you know what? I never caught those kids again. Never. And I see they go, Mr. Eisenberg, thank you very much. Good to see you.
You're scared them.
It wasn't so much scared. I think they started to realize that
once they admitted it out loud, it was
everybody. It's not just me. I'm affected. My parents are affected. This guy's affected. This judge. People are now affected by what I did, something that small. So I can only imagine if I did something major, how many more people am I going to affect?
You should also have to do something to undo the damage that you.
They had to pay restitution. They had to pay restitution, and then
actually, like physically go out and work. Like they should come clean the damn store. Or
I wanted them to do that, but they wouldn't do that for insurance reasons. But those programs work. Kids aren't stupid.
Yeah, they can be set on a right track again.
Yes,
they can be. They just need that kind of guidance and mentorship and discipline. But parents aren't. We have such a major problem. We can say, oh, it's the parents and we can get them in, but man, that ship is going to be harder to right than anything. Right. And also you have, so say Trump comes in and he changes all these education policies on how to, and the DOJ comes in with, what he says, new standards on how to discipline minors. How do we fight? We're still going to have so much resistance to it because the Democrats are used to ignoring the law.
That's why you got to suspend the Constitution.
They are not in this particular instance. So, but you're going to have the same people in the same jobs. Okay. Now you have these new rules you have to follow. They're already sanctuary cities. They're already ignoring laws. They're already deciding who to prosecute based on race. And they're so indoctrinated and so committed to that way. How are we actually going to right the ship? You can't go after each. You can't. There's not enough manpower and time and bandwidth to accomplish firing them.
I just had an epiphany.
I'm just telling you, this is not gonna. This is going to be an insanely long turn.
I've just had an epiphany. Imagine that all these prosecutors that are doing these things are not doing what they should be doing, and then enforcing other laws that are not constitutional, like AB 665 and other ones where the school counselors can regender your kids and put them in a house, or someone can steal your kid from one state, take it to another state to affirm their gender, which is literally kidnapping. Yeah. Right. They can reclassify it any way they want. So what we need to do is identify the people that push these laws, enforce these laws, and people who voted for these laws. Anyone who voted for, enforced, created, or was a part of the legislation, you should immediately lose your seat on wherever you're seated. Doesn't matter what office you hold or anything. And then you get rid of all the members of the DSA that hold office, which is the Democratic Socialists of America, because they're Marxists. They're trying to overthrow the government. You got to root out the idea. If you get rid of the people that are pushing the idea from being able to hold office, make communism illegal again. It used to be illegal.
I don't know if there's a legal path to that, but I like it.
It used to be illegal. In the 60s and the 70s, we were arresting people for trying to institute communism in our country. And it is illegal because sedition is illegal. You cannot be a true socialist without being a seditionist. You can't be a true Marxist without being a seditionist, or a communist without being a seditionist. So anyone that is a member of any party that belongs to these groups that are willfully, openly trying to overthrow the government by reinstituting another set of rules, and you should immediately be arrested and removed from office.
That's the true insurrection.
That is the true insurrection. You're exactly right.
I agree.
Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries. These people are seditionists.
I agree. And I think another thing we should try to do, and I'm a big proponent for it, homeschooling. Get your kid out of public school so he's not getting indoctrinated anymore.
That's an immediate. It's an immediate solution. It's an immediate for parents that are willing and able to do it. That is an immediate solution to almost all of the problems in the schools. Now your kid is safe from the juvenile delinquents. Yep. You're not worried about metal detectors anymore. you're not worried about government indoctrination, and the list goes on. And homeschool kids do better on standardized testing.
Yes,
they
they
have
do.
better college acceptance rates,
Yes, they do.
higher rates of scholarship. It goes on and on. They're amazing.
How would you respond to the comment here? Major Mitt put out here says, you have to beat the idea and not the people. It's hard to fight an idea that's not being projected by a person. So it's sometimes people embody the idea and it looks like I'm beating a person, but I'm not. I'm going after the idea. If I want to kill Nazis, I got to take Hitler out. I don't know how else to do it.
Right. And maybe I can help clarify. What Eddie was talking about wasn't necessarily, the citizens. He was talking about elected officials and rooting them out, for being seditionists. So, those people, yes, we don't want to take them out. Just want to take them out of their position of power and put them in the back of the bus where they belong.
Because the DSA is a pro-Hamas group. They actually hold pro-Hamas rallies where people go and dress up. The New York Post has already exposed them. And if you are a member of that group, if you go to the DSA's website, you can see every elected official. They even separate it by elected officials. So you can see how many of them are there and belong to it. And you should not be able to belong to a subversive group while you're holding office. Well, you shouldn't be able to belong to them, period. But especially if you're elected to defend the Constitution and you're there intentionally trying to tear it up and throw it in the trash.
But like you were saying, and I'm trying to keep from getting yelled at, that juvenile justice needs to be retooled. We have, with juveniles, you can gear it more towards rehabilitation than you can do about incarceration.
Agreed.
You can work with kids. They are still pliable. They're still malleable. They will listen if you talk to them. Again,
Agreed.
There's an exception to the rule every time. It's not going to work for every kid. But you know what? I would rather err on the side of caution when it comes to children than not.
Well, I would rather err on the side of trying than just letting them go because we don't want to hurt their feelings with handcuffs.
Exactly.
Come on.
Sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. But with kids, they are still definitely help. You can help them. I used to coach football. I had kids on my team that were crazy, wouldn't listen to their parents, scream and yell and fight all the time. All you got to do is talk to them. Kids want to be heard. They think nobody listens to them. So if you sit them down and go, hey, look, I heard you're being a knucklehead in school. I'm going to make you run laps for an hour. Before you start, what's the problem, man? I'm your coach. Talk to me. I'm not your parent.
You keep the discipline where it is. You don't say you get another chance. No matter what, you got to do the punishment regardless. We can talk after and deal with your issue, but you bought this and here it is.
I think part of the problem is we have so many more kids than we used to. We have children in gangs. Who from when they're very little, like we're talking about 7-year-olds carrying guns and dealing drugs, like they're just so, their minds are so warped and so twisted. That kid, and that kid unfortunately isn't the exception anymore. To say that he'll be the exception that the rehab doesn't work on. We got bigger problems than we used to.
Someone in the comments, I don't remember who, but I saw it, said that gangs are a father figure for some of these kids.
They are. They are. They feel like that's where they get their love from.
Yep, that's 100% true. And the only way you can beat that is like you were saying, Eddie. Parents got to be involved.
Yep,
they have to be involved.
I guarantee you. I don't know what the stat is. I have to look on Statista, but there is a stat for it. I'm sure. How many people that we know that are in gangs come from a broken home? I guarantee you there's a statistic.
It's probably astronomically high.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I mean, I support kids. I love kids. I would have 100 of them if I could, but
Me neither.
I can't stand people like, oh, it's a broken kid. We can't help him. Just get rid of him. There's no broken.
Some of them are, man. Listen, I'm just telling you.
Like I said, there's an exception. There's an exception to the rule.
Some of them are. That little gypsy chick was a handful.
I've never met a kid that was broken, that it couldn't be fixed, or at least put back on the path to get fixed.
If you get them early enough, if you get them soon
there's
enough.
a certain, I mean, like I said, there's an exception to every rule. There's a kid I coached that got arrested for armed robbery, and he was 16. And I called him and said, dude, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me? Out of all the people in the world, you could have called me. I'd come pick you up. He's like, well, I didn't think of it. And I didn't know. I said, well, now you know. I am here.
They don't expect anyone to care, dude. I mean, if you want the real truth, I mean, that's really what it was for me. Right. I started getting in trouble at a very young age, and when no one paid attention, I escalated. I mean,
No, I agree.
and I really escalated.
Wow.
I
And
just hate- I hate
it was
kids
just
when they
because
do that.
I didn't think anyone gave a
sad.
damn.
And
It's
this
sad
is
to see
what we
kids
need
like
to prevent. Yeah. And this is where maybe hopefully some reform will make a difference. And, a kid like Eddie who felt like nobody cared, nobody's paying attention. I could set the, local library on fire. I could blow up a gas station. No one cares.
And the difference is now I go down and I'll talk to the kids, the endangered youth. They come out they come out to our job sites and they want to learn how to get into the industry. So we let them do certain things that our insurance will allow with someone there. And we put them to work, putting up an apartment building or putting up a hospital, or they're on the job site. So they come out once a week and they usually have a chaperone that has to work alongside them. And then when they get to a certain age, we say, hey, you want to do this, we'll give you an opportunity to do it. And then, it gives them a different person to look up to, another different kind of a role model and a way to stand on it. Because accomplishment is addictive, guys. I don't know if anyone has ever just started from nothing but an idea and turned the idea into, look, this is Patriots Prayer Network. Is 3.5 years ago, sat down in my garage and I decided I could not just be quiet anymore, that God touched me in such a way that I had to do something. And from that, this is where this was all born from. And, now I want nothing more than to put Fox to shame. I have such ambitions that it's good. And I'm not going to slow down. Not going to slow down. So, I mean, you gotta have a dream and you gotta realize that it is attainable.
That makes me feel better, because as we go through all these points, I'm like, the problem's so big. I can't take my eyes off the Titanic problems we have. So you're right. Everything starts with an idea, and we can do it. We can turn the ship.
Baby steps.
But it's what we focus on, like you just said. When they teach you to drive NASCAR and stock car, I don't know if you guys ever paid the money and went down and they let you do 3 laps. It's fun as hell. If you haven't done it, please do it. It's great.
Love to.
It's like 180 miles an hour. You'll never get that feeling. Oh God, I love it. But one of the things they tell you when they're training you is don't look at the wall. Never stare at the wall, because whatever you're focused on, that's what you're going to hit.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so they tell you, even if you're spinning out, keep your eye on the road when you're trying to correct. Keep your head turned in such a way as you're always looking at the road. Because if you're looking at the wall, it's what you're going to hit.
That makes
sense. Your focus has to change.
All right. I got one more little piece of this this Agenda 47 thing for you. Eddie, you're really going to like this first thing he says. This one, I can't wait to see your face. Let's go.
7th, I will protect the right of self-defense everywhere it is under siege, and I will sign concealed carry reciprocity. Your Second Amendment does not end at the state line. In addition, I will, of course, fully secure the border, dramatically increase interior enforcement, and wage war on the cartels.
Yeah.
What do you think about reciprocity on concealed carry?
It's constitutional.
How
it's
amazing.
Constitutional.
How is that not a thing?
Why is it that if my wife carries, right, she does, and if we go to Utah or Arizona, all of a sudden she's doing something illegal and she's not broken any law constitutionally? Why is it that if I'm in Maryland, I got to keep my bullets separate from my gun? Hold on, Mr. Burglar. I'll be right back. I keep the bullets over here. Right? Or if that burglar turns around and runs away with all my life savings in his hand, and if I shoot him in his back, I've committed a murder. The states get away with these things because of what we just started with. The perception is power.
Yep.
So if you believe the state has the right to take your Second Amendment from you, then you do. But the reality of it is they don't. In reality, they don't have the ability to even create a law when it comes to guns. The Constitution is clear as a bell. Congress shall make how many laws? No laws. None. None. And it says the word inferred, which means it supersedes the Constitution. It's like from God. Your ability to defend yourself supersedes the rule of law. Means that even as I'm a felon, legally that Constitution says I should still be able to own a weapon. But because everyone has, but we're going to compromise on that. And we're going to just let that go and push that to the side because I can justify it over here with this. No, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Either the Constitution is right or it's wrong.
Right. I agree.
And what he's doing, I completely agree with. Your rights don't stop at the state line.
An armed society is a polite society.
Exactly right.
Absolutely. How would that affect things if people knew that, you know, anybody could be, you could be in a no open carry state or whatever,
Mhm.
no concealed carry state, and then but you don't know. You see Texas plates, it reminds you might
Hey.
be a Texan.
When I came out here from Maryland, everybody in Nevada carries. Like the old lady in the grocery store has a pistol. I was on a bus, right? And this is a true story. I was going downtown, and this was in 97, 98. I was going downtown on a bus. In downtown, they have the gun shows, right? And they had these big swap meet looking things. It's all guns. People go down there and sell their guns and stuff. This old lady was going down to sell this rifle that she had that I guess belonged to her husband. And she told the whole story about, you know, him passing and she had this left over and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sitting on the bus. I'm sitting in the very first seat right there by the driver where you put the money. I'm sitting there and she was wrestling with her money. She turned around and handed me the fucking rifle. Excuse my language. She handed me the rifle. And I'm sitting there with my hands out like, everybody look, I ain't do nothing. Look, I'm holding this rifle in my hand. It tripped me out how free these people are just to carry guns down the street in their purses, showing each other their guns at work. I worked at a place where everyone at their desk had their guns like on their desk. Like that's a whole different culture from where I come from. But I tell you what, it's not as dangerous here as it is in Baltimore. It's not as many murders here as it is in Baltimore.
No,
It just doesn't have that same that culture is just not here. Like here, there are consequences and they're deadly.
immediate consequences.
And it'd be the old lady that'll do it to you too. I was an old man who shot a kid
My
trying to break into his house while he was still on the other side of the door. And liberals lost their damn minds because the kid hadn't made it into the house yet, and the guy shot through the door. Oh, I gotta let him hurt me first before I can.
Let him shoot me first.
He gets to shoot at me first, and then Maryland doesn't even want cops to have guns. They don't want.
Chicago took them away from the cops too.
Yeah, but they don't mind the criminals having them. Again, that goes back to this soft on crime policy. If they really cracked down on criminals having guns, like really went after it, you know, I might even look the other way on some of their other nonsense.
I just think they need to change their policy.
We wouldn't need as many guns if all the criminals didn't have guns.
If I violated some law with a gun, I see you taking away my guns. If I shot somebody or something like that, that's a whole different ball game. I didn't do anything like that. And so for me not to have my Second Amendment rights was harsh. I immediately went about getting my voting rights restored. I mean, I immediately started writing letters and figuring out case law and all that. I got my voting rights restored almost immediately.
All right, so that's fantastic and fascinating. But like if it is relatively simple, I mean, I'm sure there was some complication and a lot of red tape to do that. But if it's relatively simple to get them restored, like why take them away to begin with? And also, why don't more people fight to get their voting rights restored?
It's information, and a lot of them don't have the information. They run their lives based off of what the news tells them is legal, and it, just like you just said, why take the rights away because they can't take the rights away, which is the only reason they were able to be restored. What I had to do in my case was prove that they didn't have the right to take my voting rights away. I had to say there's no taxation with that representation and actually push that agenda. And I had to hire a lawyer and I had to file paperwork until the state had to admit that they didn't really have a case for removing my ability to vote in federal elections. And they didn't. And they restored them. And it took me about 4 months to do. It didn't take a very long time.
I'd love to do a whole episode having you on to tell that story in greater detail, because I think that is fascinating. I 100% agree that if you've paid your debt to society, you should be able to come back out and vote and participate in society fully again. The gun thing, like you said, yeah, if you shot somebody, and maybe we'll talk.
Yeah, it's just like if you committed a sex crime or crime against kids, you're not working in a damn daycare. I mean, it makes sense.
Right. Certain things make sense, but I would like to kind of expose that knowledge that you gained from that experience, because I know there are a lot of people I know who can't vote. And
No,
should be
they
allowed
can
to.
vote now. Trump changed the law now permanently, so they can vote now.
So now felons can vote now?
Oh yeah, no. Trump
well, how did I
changed the
miss
law
that?
permanently, so no one ever has to fight for their right to vote anymore. Trump changed the law in the last year of his term while he was in office.
Good.
Oh,
Everyone can vote now.
Very good.
And what's
like
funny,
that. That's
is somebody did like a satirical video where they were talking about how Joe Biden locked everybody up with the 94 crime bill and took away their rights to vote. And Donald Trump restored their right to vote. And then they voted for the guy who took their rights away. It was so funny. It's funny ass little satirical clip, but it's true. While I'll look up the exact law that he passed that will tell us.
Yeah, I definitely. I just lost control of my desk again. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, I caught it better this time.
Yeah, I think carrying guns is beyond its constitutional right. It's a human right. You have a right to defend yourself, and I don't need a law that tells me I can.
It's just if you believe it when they tell you can't, then you can't.
It's like if someone broke into my house right now, I don't care if they walked in and said, "Look, I'm just here to look at your stuff. I'm not going to take anything. I'm not armed." I'm sorry, I'm cutting you in half with a 12 gauge. You don't belong here. I got a kid here.
I totally agree. And self-defense is really only part of it. I mean, the real reason for our right, that right was enshrined in the Constitution, is to protect us from our own government. Exactly.
I mean, if you look at all the great dictatorships in history, the first thing they do is confiscate the weapons, get those out of the hands of the people. And as soon as that is, you're done. Because then they can control the food. They can control everything else, because you can't fight back now. You have no means to fight back. So I have a weapon. I'm going to keep my weapon. I've had my son shoot. He knows how to shoot. It's a tool that everybody should have access to, and everybody should know how to use. Just like a hammer for building the deck, tar paper for roofs, shotgun for defending yourself, guns for defending yourself. It's a tool. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a tool. I think they should teach it in schools again. I remember back when my dad was in school, they used to have rifle clubs, he said.
All right, so here it is, guys, and I'm surprised that I didn't know this already. I'm a little bit ashamed, actually. So Osiga Kaku, who is a member of the Patriots Prayer Network, actually worked on this legislation.
Oh, cool.
It's called the First Step Act, and the First Step Act actually restored the rights of felons to vote. And it was
I know about the First
in
Step Act.
2018.
I didn't know that was included in it, and I'm very, very happy to know that. Thank you.
That's good.
That's wonderful. That's right. You paid your debt, and like Eddie said, you're paying taxes, and you don't get to choose, and you don't get. Yes, you're getting representation, but you didn't get to choose it.
If it's no taxation without representation, should it also be no representation without taxation? Like, if you didn't put in on this, you didn't get a vote. Like, should welfare recipients be able to go down and vote for the guy who's going to continue to allow them to sit home on their ass, watch Jerry Springer and eat Cheerios?
Yeah, I watch Jerry Springer.
I think that's a great idea. I think that trading it, if you're not paying taxes, you're just taking taxes. I think that's a great idea. You can do it, but you relinquish your right to vote. But that's how they keep winning, right? I mean, that's why they're getting all the illegals.
That's why they're getting the illegals in here. Yeah, Act. It's crazy. As a SAVE Act, we didn't have one Democrat vote for it, and the law was only to prevent illegals from voting in elections. I can't believe
that's
it's just mind blowing. That's as mind blowing as the gay people wanting to fight the law that keeps kids from being sold.
Well, that'll probably won't get past the Supreme Court, but we will buy them enough time. But it will buy them enough time to get all the votes they need, and that's all that matters.
Here's my question though: why do we have to humor these conversations that are so obviously just shouldn't there be someone in the front of the courthouse who just says no, just
get the hell out of here?
Actually, that should be us. And we're not, and enough Americans aren't doing that. Enough American, and that's the vote. that's the vote right there saying, no, you out, you out, you out.
We just
They
have
don't
so
do
many
it.
conversations that we shouldn't be having. Like, why in the hell is Miss Nevada Mr. Nevada? Like, there's so many conversations that we shouldn't even have to have. Title IX, protection for women in sports. I mean, Leah Thomas looked like a damn Jolly Green Giant next to Riley Gaines. I mean, was there any? It's crazy that we even have to have the conversation of why the 50-year-old showering next to the 13-year-old in the YMCA is a problem, right? Anyone know what the YMCA, the letters stand for?
Young Man's Christian Association.
What part of Christianity allows a 50-year-old to shower next to a 13-year-old? And why is it that the people that brought it to light are the ones that got in trouble and not the 50-year-old guy who did it? It's crazy.
I have a whole
in schools.
I have a whole theory on that, but that's for another time. But as far as the border, send the National Guard down there, federalize them, and send them down there and let them and make that a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Every state's got to send so many people down every 6 months. They stay for 6 months, rotate them out, build the wall, and then
we got a hell of a military. We got a lot of weapons. We got a lot of technology. And we could secure that border permanently if we wanted to. It would be absolutely impossible to get through if we wanted it to be that way.
And the great thing
we do it in foreign countries. When we went over to Afghanistan, you weren't going across the border of Pakistan if you were no, that was so secure. Every person that entered or go ahead.
When my ship pulled into ports overseas, you weren't getting on that port. You were not coming on that pier. No matter what you tried to do, you were not coming on that pier.
Nope.
We can, like you said, it can be done. It's just we don't have the leadership at the spine.
Drone technology.
Yep.
There's just a million ways to do it. We could, and they don't even take that much manpower to do it. It's just putting them in well-placed positions and then giving them the technology and the wherewithal to do their jobs and the funding without a Democrat in the way. You know, that's the problem. Democrats keep getting in the way.
It's the leadership that screws it, not anything else. It's the guy pooping his diapers is the one holding all this up that's not going to fix it. Once he gets out, we get Trump in, things will start to go the way they should.
I'll tell you what, we got a hard time ahead of us. 30 million people, guys, and he's saying he's going to get them out. Like that's one of his first things. I don't know how you do that.
That'll take years.
It's well, we did it. We had Operation Wetback in 53, right? Under not Eisenhower, but Roosevelt.
Okay.
And he got 2 point some odd million at that time with his resources to get
it can be done.
2 point some million out. We can do it. We can do it, but it's just not going to be done with just the police force and National Guard. You're going to need way more resources than that.
Hey, low hanging fruit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You're going to need a volunteer army in the United States. Like, you know how Trump created the Space Force? We need the immigration force. Like right here in the United States, if people want to go sign up to join the immigration force, come join. It'd be a whole new thing.
ICE? Isn't that ICE already?
Nah, it needs to be expanded beyond ICE.
Yeah, it could be expanded.
For way bigger, for 30 million people, ICE can't do it.
And another thing, these businesses that hire illegal immigrants, find them out the ass.
Just enforce the law that's already there.
Not $20,000, $500,000 for every violation. That doubles every time you violate.
We have E-Verify. We have E-Verify, but they don't use it.
Right. So fine them $500 per, double every time you find more than one account. Start sticking it to them.
Yeah.
Make them pay.
That'll do it.
Agreed.
That'll take care of it. We can just go to the shelters. Look, we got migrant shelters. We know many of the illegals are now on the books. We know where they are. Go throw a net around them like the dog catcher and get them out. It is that like we start there, low hanging fruit, and then root out the rest.
Well, they locked us down in our homes when they said there were about 300,000 people dead from COVID. Right? It was a problem. It was a pandemic when we had 100,000 people die. It was an epidemic. We have 86,000 children right now that was the last number that was over a year old. So it's probably over 100,000 now. 100,000 children. We don't know where they are. That's an epidemic. We don't know where they are, folks. They're gone. For all intents and purposes, they could be sex trafficked. They could be any damn thing because of our immigration policy. And So if locking us down in our homes and shutting down our businesses and all that was worth all of that, how about 100,000 kids and we don't know where they are? They've been
We don't
kidnapped.
care. They don't care where they are. Do you remember when I want to finish this with this one last thought, and then we're gonna wrap it up here tonight, guys. So when the Boston bombing happened, I was living in Boston at the time, and a couple days afterwards, when they found
Dzhokhar Tsarnaev,
the brother, the little Tsarnaev, he was, they were looking for him. They knew that they were around. They were both, on the run. And one day in particular, they had started to hone in on it, and they asked everybody in Boston, stay home. When I tell you, it was a ghost town. People stayed home. People didn't go to work, they worked from home if they had the option. If you had events, we canceled everything. I stayed in. I didn't drive my car. I didn't want to be the schmo that caused, a fender bender and had to divert police resources to my fender bender, anything. And we all did it together. We all stuck together, stayed in, and they found him because they had all hands on deck. And it was amazing. We stuck
amazing
together.
What you can do when all the people are on your side, when
Right.
we all have a like mind. That was the greatest generation, was 42. Everybody wanted to help the war. Everybody wants to protest it now.
But city by city, I bet you could get Houston to do that. If you say doing this in the name of Jocelyn Nungaray and we're going to clean up our city today, I have a feeling that they could get it done.
The problem in Houston is, guys, they and I don't know how much of this you followed, but when the power went out down there are several linemen that were being poisoned by the citizens down there, and they were being attacked while trying to restore power. And the people trying to attack them, they all looked like immigrants. They were not Texans. They were usually, the guy the videos that I've seen, they look like Haitians and Cuban and all kinds of other things. But they were giving them water laced with fentanyl as they were trying to fix the lines and put the power back on. They were beating their trucks. Several of them ended up in the hospital. Wow. Because the culture is that terrible. Look at Houston and San Antonio's mayor, and you'll understand why.
But that's all the more reason that I think the people will eventually just come together, and if we have to, stand down and let the powers be come in and clean up our city. One city at a time. We can get this done. Guys, can you tell everybody? Do me a favor. Tell everybody where we can watch your shows, when, and thank you so much for coming. And do me a favor, hang out backstage for a second, and we'll talk. All right, Eddie. Shoot. So
Eddie here from the Patriots Prayer podcast. We're on Monday and Wednesday, and now we're going to start instituting these Sundays, guys. So tune in this Sunday at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking all things conspiracy. It's going to be fun. So got a whole panel of everybody that's going to join in. We're going to talk 9/11, flat earth, aliens, you name it. We're talking about everything. MK Ultra, you bring it. We're going to talk about it.
All right.
So I'm Seth Eisenberg. I'm new kid on the block. On the conservative corner, I do it on Sundays at 7. I don't know if we're changing it now, but usually it's Sundays at 7. You can see me here. I'm on Facebook.
Oh shoot, Seth! Did I just take your show time? I'm sorry. We were in the group chat and someone told me that was when they were available, and I just went with it. I apologize.
How about conspiracies at 8? What do we say to conspiracies at 8?
We're fine with that.
Right after
we're fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So 8 o'clock, guys. I'll make that happen. No worries. There it is.
So sorry about that. So me, then we'll do. They get the conspiracies after me. Hang out with me. I'm fun to watch. I get really riled up, and it's neat to watch me spin.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun.
And Seth is trying to, guys. He needs your support, because he's trying to win or get funding for what is it, Seth? You're trying to be Miss Maryland or something like that?
Yes, I'm running for Miss Maryland because
Miss Maryland.
Trans won the last one. So I figured I'm going to try out this next year.
There it is. There it is.
Let's get behind Seth.
I will go. You know what? I haven't been back to my home state in a while. If you get it, Miss Maryland, I'm coming home, and I'm going to film you on that stage, dude. It's going to be now. If they do give it to you, are you going to do like the evening gown portion of the contest? Are you wearing the bikini, dude, or what?
Because I haven't shaved in 52 years, so I'm not sure how that's going to look. Like, who's the gorilla on stage? Who let the bear in here?
Oh my god!
But I'll figure something out. If they actually let me do it, I'll have it worked out. A friend of mine's wife used to do it, so she said she'd coach me. So I got it lined up if they let me do it.
What's your talent?
Peeing standing up.
Oh.
You're gonna win. You're gonna win. All right.
No,
fellas,
there's probably a
thank you
lot of
so
them that be
much.
standing up now.
Thank you both for being here. I'm gonna say
Thanks for
goodnight.
having me.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
You too. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me and Seth Eisenberg and Eddie Smith tonight. We got through a lot of the Agenda 47 tonight on the law and order, and we're going to keep doing this every week, having another conversation about another aspect of it and bringing in all the other things too. You know, law and order, one thing we've been talking about, I've been talking about on my other channels, is the 10 commandments. And, you know, law and order, do not steal, do not lie, do not kill. These are all the things that the Democrats are all about. And we're going to try to get those things back into American culture and law. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Drop a sub, like the video, and share it if you had a good time tonight. And God bless America.
Have you heard of the based mother?